So when I was doing research for this podcast, I'm sure you could imagine, I look up Tom Smith and I get probably 500 different responses for everybody. And then, of course, I look up Tom Smith, Massachusetts, and then I find what I need. But it was very hard to do research for this podcast, so I'm hoping I can have some good questions. I first wanted to start off with, do you want to, I'm not starting off, but did you want to explain a little bit of your story up until now? Like just Cliff Notes version of from when you got paralyzed the first time until now.
Yeah. So first off, Cameron, thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome.
When I think about goodness, now the last 18 years of when this journey really started, it's been up and down throughout the entire way. But one thing I will say that's been, one of the most constant things in my life is the support for our foundation. And how that came to be was, Cameron, when I graduated from high school. I was an aspiring collegiate hockey player, and
Yeah.
was hoping to play at some level of Division One. Like many folks, signed a junior contract, was going to play 1, if not 2 years, and then move on from after that. And when I graduated from high school, I had 4 letters of interest from Yale University, University of Vermont, Sacred Heart, and Holy Cross. So the reality of me playing at some level was very strong. And then it was really, okay, how can we how can I really control my own destiny? So
Yeah.
when I signed a junior contract, I was with the Boston Junior Bulldogs. We were out of Salem, New Hampshire. And I was in my second tournament with the team, a very popular tournament, Hockey Night in Boston. And it was the last game of the tournament, third period, and both Yale and University of Vermont were at the game. So I'm skating my hardest. And really the last thing I remember about that game was an opposing player was going down on a breakaway on my goalie. My goalie came out to poke check the puck. I caught up to the opposing player at the last second, and the three of us met. And then several hours later, I woke up in the hospital. And what was, I guess, my first introduction to what had happened was my mother was sitting beside me, Cameron. Her hand was on my hand, and I couldn't squeeze her hand. And that was my first introduction to paralysis. And then a doctor came in about 15 minutes later and said, Tom, you are paralyzed from your neck down. Really, your life is going to be changed forever. And that really, on August 2nd, 2008, that was the start to a journey that I don't wish paralysis upon anyone. But I think what your listeners will hear in this podcast, through tragedy, through adversity, through things that you don't expect, greatness can come. And that's what we've tried to do over the last 16 years. But that was my first accident, was in 2008.
It would almost feel like you're trapped in, like, obviously that's what people say, like it's you're trapped inside your own body. I couldn't imagine remembering your last thing with you back checking, and then you wake up in a hospital bed and you can't squeeze your mom's hand. That's
Yeah. Yeah. And so, Cameron, I'm a July baby, so I was on the older half for school.
Mhm.
So when I was a senior, I was 18 my entire senior year, and then so I'm 19 at the time.
Yeah.
19 years old, thinking, I have everything figured out. Again, I'm going to play 1, if not 2 years of juniors and then go play collegiately. And then here I am in a hospital bed in my second term and paralyzed from my neck down. And, when the reality set in that this could be for the rest of my life, I'm the type of person, and I was raised this way, that if someone tells you you can or you can't, you're right. And if you believe you can or you can't, you're right. And at 19 years old, having a doctor say you're never going to walk again, my family and I, we wanted to exhaust all resources before we accepted that reality.
Mhm.
So after about a month and a half in the hospital, in and out of rehabilitation as well, and being told I was never going to walk again, my family and I sought alternative resources and found this place in Miami, Florida called the Miami Project to Cure Paralysis, which is the world's most comprehensive research center for individuals with spinal cord injury as well as neurological disease. And what was amazing about that, Cameron, so being told I was never going to walk again, paralyzed from my neck down, and going to Miami, within 3 months of aggressive rehabilitation, working with the co-founder to the Miami Project, Dr. Barth Green, I was walking. So my days were 8 hours a day between at the Miami Project, aquatic therapy, There was a local Gold's Gym about 2 blocks away from where I was staying. Between 8 hours of exercise Monday through Friday, and then on Saturdays I would strictly do aquatic therapy all day. By Christmas time, I'm walking. Now, not perfect. A
Hmm.
lot of it is with assistance. I can't walk backwards, but the fact that I was able to get on my feet and being told by doctors prior that I was never going to walk again, it was the greatest Christmas gift I could have ever gotten. And then you look at that, right? And
Yeah.
then you fast forward 5 months. Come May, I have made a 1 in a million recovery. And here I am with Dr. Green and the head doctors at Miami talking about, okay, what are the next steps for Tom Smith? Which was, yeah, it was a 1 in a million recovery.
So what? I mean, I didn't even know that 8 hours. It was you were recovering full time for months. That's crazy. What did they do at Miami that they couldn't do in Boston or any surrounding states or cities?
Yeah, it's a great question. So when I got hurt in 2008, it was one of the early adopters for what the Christopher and Dana Reeves Foundation was doing, which I'm sure you and your listeners have seen now. But it
Mhm.
was a time an experimental treadmill. So they put you in a harness, and you would have robots or therapists move your legs, and it basically teach you how to walk again. And the thought was that if we can train the brain to learn how to walk again. Now, my first injury, I was incomplete. So when
Mhm.
you think about this, Cameron, you have complete injuries, which mean you sever your spinal cord,
Yeah.
incomplete, which means you didn't. So my damage was I had dislocated vertebra at the top of my neck. So being
Okay.
able to relocate them, get everything centralized in terms of the vertebra, if you will, and then that allowing the messages to travel from my head to the different parts of my body was exactly what they did. So every
Mhm.
single day I am in and working with the therapist, sometimes having robotic arms on my leg, teaching me how to walk again. That
Yeah.
was the game changer. It was not available in Boston at the time.
Okay.
And Miami was one of the first locations to have it.
That's that sounds pretty cool. I mean, I imagine that there's more things now, but I was actually going to ask this question. So, not all types of paralysis can be recovered from. I assume the complete ear. It's there's. I mean, maybe that there's people who have recovered from it, but is
Mhm.
there is there a very low chance of recovery if you get a complete injury?
Yeah, Cameron, it's very challenging, and this is a lot of like when you look at the research on what doctors are working on. It's when someone has a complete injury and they sever their spinal cord. Um, it's the level of injury is a lot more complex
Hmm.
than the incomplete. And it's specifically because of the messages being able to travel up and down your spinal cord to the different extremities in your body.
Right.
So, when you look at complete versus incomplete, the more severe is a complete. And it's specifically because of the disruption, wherever that level of injury is, those messages getting from the brain to the different extremities so the individual can move.
I was a while ago. I was watching this guy. He was streaming on Twitch, and he had an incomplete injury on his back. Oh, I'm kind of jumping all over the place. This really interests me. Um, he injured it in a motocross incident, and he came back and he full. Well, I don't know about full recovery, but he could walk around again. It was that was the first time I've seen anything. I didn't know. Like I thought you got paralyzed. Oh, sorry, but I didn't realize you could actually recover from something like that in some cases. But
Yeah,
it
I mean, Cameron, what's amazing, and I think this is obviously it's a testament to where modern medicine's going. I'm not the only one who's been paralyzed that has been given a second chance.
mhm.
What's unique about my story is what we'll talk about next, with what happened after. But yeah, I've met several individuals, in particular at the Miami project, that have had very serious injuries that, to different degrees, but are back on their feet. Some walk with walkers. I walk with forearm crutches.
Mhm.
Some folks are walking without any assistive devices. So I think it's a testament to where modern medicine has come in the last couple of decades.
So now you said you walk with forearm crutches. Is that something to stabilize you when you're walking, or is it like a load bearing assistance device? Is Does that
Yep,
make
it's
sense?
for me. It's more so for a balance,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of my when I do put pressure on the crutches, it goes through my right side, because my uh, dominant leg versus the one that I have a little bit more trouble with. By swinging my right leg through, I'm able to balance a little better. So and again, I've been doing this for over a decade with being fortunate to walk with loft strand crutches. So I'm pretty good at it at this point. So in short, right now, for the past several years, they've really been for balance and making sure I
Yeah.
don't trip over myself because I can't feel my right foot.
Oh, okay. Wow. So you got injured the first time. You get cleared to play hockey again. You get injured a second time in a completely different area, not related. They said that it was you'd have better odds winning the lottery twice. Is that what it was?
Yeah, so in May of 2009, Cameron, I got signed off to play hockey again. Doctor said I made 1 in a million recovery. And the agreement that I made with my parents was if I was no more susceptible, and this is what the doctor said, I was no more susceptible than the average person to get hurt again, I was going to take the opportunity to go back to hockey.
Mm,
And, having those Division One offers and letters of interest so close. I grew up in a very very middle class family, Cameron.
mm,
So being able to say, "Mom and Dad, here's a $250,000 check," so to speak, like I have college paid for, whatever money you saved, go spoil yourselves, would have been the greatest gift that I could have ever given them. So I took the opportunity, and I'm 2 months into my second season in a practice skating around the net, something I've done at that point in my career probably 20,000 times, and I
yeah.
lost my edge with a teammate of mine, and he went into the board's feet first. I went into the board's head first. As soon as I hit the boards, I knew I was paralyzed. Unlike my first injury, where I had a very serious concussion, I don't remember anything. My second injury, I remember everything. I can tell you what coach was the first coach beside me. I can tell you that, or I remember hearing the helicopter land in the parking lot. I can tell you that the nurses were wearing blue jumpsuits. And I can tell you that it was raining out because I felt raindrops on my face when they wheeled me out into the stretcher into the parking lot. And I remember thinking to myself, it was about a 22-minute helicopter ride from Salem, New Hampshire to Boston Medical Center. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my goodness, someone screwed up. I shouldn't have gone back to hockey. Come to find out, Cameron, I was transferred from Salem, New Hampshire to Boston Medical Center. And when I got to the Boston Medical Center, they put me in the MRI machine, took me out. Doctor said, Tom, we can't find the injury. I'm like, what do you mean you can't find the injury? Immediately, they went to the cervical part of my spinal cord because it was just assumed this something
Right.
that had to be related to the first accident. Come to find out, when they rescanned my back, I had broken T3 in half. So for your listeners, first injury at the top of my neck, second injury is in between my shoulder blades. Doctors then told my parents I had a better chance of winning the lottery 5 times in a row than having two separate accidents totally unrelated. I've been around the country now for second, third, 10th, 20th opinions after my second accident. And doctors, the one common agreement is if we were you, we would have went back to hockey. If we were to the doctors in Miami, we would have signed off on you. Two totally unrelated injuries.
Do you think that I know you obviously don't want either one to happen, but in my head, I would probably not want to remember exactly what's happening. It's almost like a trauma response. I kind of just block it out. I don't. I know it happened. I know what happened, but I don't even. I'm not even going to ask which one you don't prefer either. But like, I couldn't imagine remembering. So you just felt the rain on your face. You didn't feel it. Obviously, you didn't feel it anywhere else.
Nope,
That's
only felt it on my face.
oh,
And, thinking about those moments and, it happened obviously so quickly.
mhm.
And I was very fortunate that my coach had the foresight because the same coach that saw me in my first injury was my coach again. And as
Oh,
soon as I
awesome.
hit the boards and I wasn't moving, he immediately called not only 911, told them, we need to get Tom to Boston. We need a med flight. And that really played a role in the response and then helping doctors access me as quickly as they did. And
Mhm.
they were able to minimize a lot of the swelling in my back, which one could say helped save my life.
So the swelling, I was doing a little bit of research on. You need to act within the first 6. While I was reading your foundation's website, your story,
Mm-hmm.
and all that, you need to act within the first 6 months, and you have a greater chance of you have a greater chance of recovery. Does the swelling stay? Is that why you need to act quick? Or I saw a lot about swelling in the back.
Yeah.
And
So the goal, Cameron, so once the injury's healed, and now we talked about incomplete and complete, right? When you have a complete injury and you sever your cord, it makes it a lot more complex in terms of the recovery. The incomplete, like my break was healed in a matter of a couple months, right?
mm-hmm.
It wasn't the break at that point that kept me in my wheelchair. So for your listeners, when I got hurt my second time, in my second injury, I was paralyzed from my waist down, no feeling. And so the goal, once the injury, so quote unquote, is healed, is now we need to figure out how to move the swelling out. Because if you think about it, when swelling comes in, it affects your nerves.
Mm-hmm.
And then doctors oftentimes refer to it as the nerves are drowning, right? So you have a certain time period that you want to move that swelling out before they drown. Now it's a little bit more, you have more options with the different research that's going on, stem and Schwann cell, with being able to move the swelling after a certain time period. But
Mm-hmm.
the point being is the faster you can move the swelling out, the greater chance that you have of making a recovery.
I couldn't imagine what life was like then. I mean, it almost seems like a sick joke someone played on you. You get back to playing hockey, the thing you love to do most, and you get injured in a completely different spot. You win the lottery 5 times in a row. That honestly just blows me away. I don't even know what to say. I couldn't. It's crazy that you've made such a recovery, and now you're an advocate for people who are paralyzed, and you have a foundation. It's pretty amazing. Did you want to talk about what happened the third time, which is crazy?
So after my second accident, I spent over 40 days in the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
and then got discharged. I was doing outpatient physical therapy at Boston Medical Center. Now, fast forward, so we're almost 15 months after my first accident. That device that I was talking about in Miami is now in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have to go back to Miami, which is awesome. So Christopher and Dana Reeves program, Boston Medical Center was a recipient of that program that I was talking about in Miami. So it was great. As much as I loved my doctors in Miami and the program, not having to travel 2,200 miles was a blessing. So did therapy 5 days a week. Started to make a little progress in one of my feet, where I was able to move my big toe right
Mm-hmm.
before Christmas time. So a little less than 3 months after my accident. So I knew, Cameron, this was going to be a marathon, not a sprint. But I was up for the challenge. And my dad used to drive me to physical therapy every Monday. And it was January 11th, 2010. And we were stopped at a red light about 20 minutes outside of Boston. And a distracted driver was texting. And the police think she was going about 40 miles an hour, never looked up and hit us. Slammed right into us. And I remember both of us going forward. We both had our seatbelts on, but our heads hit the windshield. And looking at my dad, and then looking down at my foot where I was moving my big toe. And I waited about 10 seconds and tried to move my big toe, and I couldn't. And I knew at that moment something was significantly wrong. All progress was lost. We were both rushed to the hospital. And the doctors, after about 2 hours of x-rays and MRIs, found out that I had rebroke T3 and injured more of the vertebra that I had injured from my second accident. And my dad actually broke 3 vertebrae in his lower back in the lumbar section. And that has altered his life since 2010, where he's been on disability since, though not paralyzed. He can't walk from his car and do a full trip around the mall without taking 10 or 20 breaks. So being able to walk a great distance and even a half a mile is out of the question for him. So that car accident not only set me back, but it's changed my dad's life. But when I think of that accident and less than 18 months having 3 separate paralyzing injuries, that was the catalyst, Cameron, for the Thomas C. Smith Foundation. In those 18 months, I saw the gaps in healthcare, the inequities that folks face, individuals and families that sustain spinal cord injuries. And we haven't been able to, and we haven't, a doctor would not disagree with this. There is no other healthcare issue that is more financially egregious, out of pocket for individuals and families than paralysis. Because you think about it, I was 20 years old after
Hmm.
my third accident.
Yeah.
With the injury, I could live to 70, 80 years old, but there's so many out of pocket costs. So we said to ourselves, my co-founder and I, Tucker Mullen, I really had to find my purpose in life. And I tell folks, I lived the first 20 years of my life with a passion, 36 now, and I lived the last 16 years with purpose. And that purpose has been trying to fill voids and gaps for individuals and families on essential needs that live with paralysis,
Hmm.
and really try to change people's lives. So that was
That's awesome.
the impetus was the three accidents for founding our foundation, which we did in May of 2010.
So you're just talking about how insurance is a joke, and insurance is just awful. I had a guest on, Noelle Lambert. She was talking about how insurance won't pay for a running leg. She's, I don't know about you, but
Yeah,
can you run with your normal leg? I think insurance should cover that. I mean, I understand you kind of have to look at it from their point of view also, not really, but a little bit. But there's some things that like that are just ridiculous. You should be able, it should cover the necessities, and I feel like she's in track and field, so running is obviously a necessity. And in your
hmm
case, the paralysis, I mean, I didn't you're right. 20 years old, you're going to live a lot longer, and there's a ton of out of pocket costs that insurance won't cover. It's crazy. So your foundation is, I'm sure. How many people have you helped?
yeah. So over the years, we've helped over 1,000 individuals and families, which has been, Cameron. No situation is exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about insurance, right? I think there's pros and cons to every business, and there should be things that insurance covers from the essential side, but they have a business to run, and we try to advocate and try to work with them to put policies that we believe um, are essential to individuals on daily living. Like for example, ramps going into your home aren't covered by insurance. God, we've funded dozens and dozens and dozens of ramps, but you think about it, when you're paralyzed in a wheelchair, how are you supposed to get into your home when you go home, right?
Right.
You can't go up steps. So it's these kind of commonsensical things that we try to work with the insurance providers on. But I think Noelle, she's not only an amazing individual, her
Mm.
personally, but her foundation. I mean, it's incredible, and like the prosthetics that they support individuals with, like it is essential. So
Yeah.
we try to fill those gaps as quickly as possible, Cameron, and try to help those that we can.
You've probably done more in, you said you're 36? In 36 years than people have done in their entire lives. Do you think that the paralysis gave you motivation to do that rather than like made you fearful of like how fragile life is and you don't want to do anything? Do you think I know it's given you purpose, but do you think that's a big
Yeah,
reason of why you've done all that you've done?
it's Cameron. It's such a great question. I think prior to my accidents, I thought my purpose in life was to put a puck in the back of the net, right?
Mm.
I thought my purpose in life was to be a collegiate hockey player and then play at some level professionally after that. So I think the foundation has helped me reposition. Not, I think, I know it has some priorities and what's really important. Like, it's funny because I really don't, honest to God, I don't have bad days. I
Mm-hmm.
have bad moments throughout the day, but it's about perspective. Life's all about perspective. And like my wife and I got married 3 years ago. We just welcomed our first son 5 months ago. Like there's so many blessings that I have. And I think that folks in general have. And it's easy, like before my accident, it was like, okay, what were my problems then? And what are my problems now? Because there are problems and there are actual problems. So
Right.
I think life is just all about perspective, and the injuries have really taught me that because individuals and families that live with paralysis, there's just more that it entails on a daily basis. So you try to
Mm-hmm.
compartmentalize and do the best you can. So the the injury in the last 16 years, a perspective is a word that really sticks out, and I think is
Mm-hmm.
important as folks think about, okay, when adversity strikes, when challenges come up, which they come up for everyone every day, right? How are you going to tackle that, and trying to not not to get too high or too low at any point, right? Just kind
Mm,
of keeping that even keel, never giving up and continuing to move on. With paralysis, you have two options: it's fight or flight. And
right.
for me, I've taken that fight. Not only have I overcome the injury, last time I used my wheelchair was December of 2012. It's now
Wow.
July of 2026. So I progressed to a walker. And then I mentioned too, I walk with my forearm crutches. I've had to fight for everything, and I still
Mhm.
fight every day. I haven't gone backwards in with my recovery. So it's it's the injuries taught me a lot, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, something that life changing. I think would teach you a lot. Do you still have to go to physical therapy for it?
I do my physical therapy on my own.
Okay.
When I get in the pool, I typically have someone come with me, like when I do aquatic therapy and things like that. But overall, stuff at the gym, I do a lot of cycling, a lot on the stationary bike. So
Hmm.
that stuff I can obviously do without assistance. But when I do get in the pool and want to stretch a little bit more than just doing laps, that's when I have someone join me.
So, talking about cycling, you went from Boston to Miami. What on earth made you think to do that? That is so far. That's I mean, yeah, your second day. Oh shoot, we're only in we're only in DC or something. How what were you thinking halfway through? Did it ever cross your mind like, oh man, what did I do? I could have went halfway across. I didn't have to go the whole way.
Well, the story behind what we called the reality ride challenge that I did in 2015 was doctor said I'd never be able to do two things. So my senior year of high school, I ran the Boston Marathon,
Hmm.
and I always loved cycling. So doctor said never be able to do a marathon again, never be able to ride a bike. So last time I used my wheelchair, as I mentioned, was December 2012. At the end of 2013, really made it. Excuse me, the summer of 2013, started to ride a bike, and I was just determined to learn how to do it again.
Yeah.
So after about a year of modifying the bike that I was riding, getting my balance back, all of that, I was able to do so. And at that point, Cameron, we really started hitting an inflection point with the foundation. So my
Hmm.
goal was, and my thought process was, how can I create the most amount of awareness and at the time raise the most amount of money with an athletic event? And so my one of my dear friends, Teague Egan, and I came up with the Reality Ride Challenge. And I originally thought when I ride my bike from Boston to LA, and he was like, Tom, it
Oof.
doesn't make sense. Let's go from Boston, the place you got hurt, to Miami, the place that cured you. And
Yeah.
what was incredible about it, Cameron, is about 2,100 miles was at each stop. So before we left the night before, we had a night with the Bruins. And then we were able to get on TV there. So we started to extend our message. When we got
Hmm.
to New York, we had night with the Islanders. When we got to DC, we had night with the Capitals. So the NHL really helped us spread our message, and our fundraising link and all of that was starting to get out there. And I had close family and friends ride with me in a lot of the cities. So when we started to hit the Carolinas, we had $70,000 raised. And so it was a 38-day event. I did 31 days of riding. I would take every Sunday off. It took about 7 weeks. It was 38 days. And I was thinking to myself, okay, how can I continue to use this, right? And create that momentum on as we were going down the coast. So we started to engage with military groups.
Oh wow.
And what I wanted to do was hockey players inherently, just by the nature of the sport, are more susceptible than the average person for a head and neck injury, right? Because of how fast it is.
Yep.
Unfortunately, our men and women who serve some of them come back with head or neck injuries that obviously alter their life. So I was trying to make it make sense from a marketing standpoint, and it worked. I mean, we met some of the most inspiring individuals and service members when we started to engage with them in the Carolinas and Georgia and Florida. And I remember when we hit St. Augustine, Florida, we had $95,000 raised, and our goal
That's
was
awesome.
100,000. And we hit that mark when we hit Fort Lauderdale, which was the night before we arrived in Miami. So it was an incredible, incredible event. It was a dream come true to me because I was told never going to ride a bike again. Now here I am back on my feet riding from Boston to Miami. And
Hmm.
but for the foundation, the Boston Globe actually covered us the entire way. So
Really?
Stan Grossfield was the photographer and editor who did the story.
Hmm.
So when that story landed, there were two stories that catapulted us both nationally and internationally from that event. It was Stan's story with the Boston Globe. And I remember, this is funny, when I got to Miami, the Miami Herald was there. I was on the front page 2 days later, the Miami Herald. It was me at the top and the Pope at the bottom. And I called my grandmother and I said, Graham, she was very religious, God rest her soul. Um, I said, Graham, would you ever envision your grandson being on the front page of the Miami Herald with the Pope? And she died laughing. She was like, never in a million years, honey. But those two articles were syndicated dozens of times through different publications like the Chicago Tribune,
Hmm.
Washington Post, a couple major media outlets. And that just, it really set us up nicely going into 2016 and helping us raise a ton of money.
So you mentioned modifying your bike. You mentioned that you can't feel your right foot. What did you have to do in regards to modifying it to make it usable? I mean, if you take
Yeah.
a normal bike, it's probably going to be a little bit harder. I noticed on the pictures that I saw you had I think it was a phone mount. I'm not sure. It was like in the front. But
Yeah.
what did you do to modify it?
So I guess the four main things that we did was, I'll start with the pedals. So my right leg and my right foot, it's a clip in. And
Uh-huh.
then my left foot, it's a slip in. So my left leg's a bit stronger and I can feel my entire foot and my leg.
Yeah.
So like when I stop at stoplights and stop signs and whatnot, my left foot slips in and out. My right leg stays in and right foot stays in. That was the first piece. The second piece was, and I still can't feel in areas of my hips.
Oh, okay.
So I had to figure out how to balance the bike. So what you see off the front camera are actually those extenders to the squeegees at the like the gas stations when you go to squeegee your windshield. My uncle took four of them, extended them off the front, and then welded a mirror because I was looking at the mirror to line the frame and the bike seat up to keep myself balanced. So
Hmm.
that was number two. Number
Okay.
three was we painted the bottom of the bottom being green to help me pick up the beam and balance a little better. And then the fourth piece was we weighted the bike with sand, and think of it like a bobsled. The heavier the bobsled, it's a little bit tougher at the start, but once you
Hmm.
get going in that inertia and speed, it's going to go faster. So to help with my balance, we weighted the bike a little bit. So those four things is how we modified it, and it took me about a year to learn how to ride the bike again.
Wow. And you said I think I was reading it, you completed it in what, 30 something days?
It was 38 days, 31 days of riding, 38 days total.
Wow. I could, I couldn't imagine riding my bike like 50 miles, not 2,100. That's crazy. Um, how does it work raising money? You're riding to raise money. How does that work? There's general statement. Do you just have a donate here button and you're riding your bike across the country for awareness? Is that how it goes, or?
So we did a couple things. One, as I mentioned, we partnered with the professional hockey teams along the way. So as I
Yeah.
was doing interviews and getting affiliated with those organizations, they obviously have a massive outreach.
Hmm.
So every time I did an interview, they would put us on X or with all of them, I was on TV. And so you'd see something across the bottom of your screen to get more involved. Visit this website or donate here. Anything that was in print, we had our donate link. And then from there, we had 9 sponsors that came on between families and corporations.
Hmm.
So that was able to help us quite a bit. And then it was people that we met along the way. We
Yeah.
met some amazingly generous people that really just out of the kindness of their heart, here's $100, here's $1,000, here's
Oh,
20
wow.
bucks. And so that all those efforts combined help us raise the $100,000.
Going back to sports, did you play any other sports growing up other than hockey?
I did. I played football, I played baseball, and really enjoyed golf as well.
Oh,
So I'm
wow.
a huge advocate for kids and multi sports. I don't think, at least until you're in high school, up until then, kids should play all different sports.
Can you golf now? I'm sorry if I'm being naive, but is that an option? I would
Mhm.
think that oh,
Yep.
it is. Okay.
Yep.
Is there? Oh, actually, yeah. I was reading that there's a tournament that you host, right?
Yeah, we have our golf tournament every year, but there's actually a device called the Paragolfer
Okay.
that individuals can use. And for folks that are injured from their waist down, it's a golf cart that you sit in, and then there's a strap that goes on your waist and actually props you up, so it
Mm.
can support the lower half of your body, and you can play 18 holes with it.
Oh wow, that's really cool. Now
Yeah.
I'm assuming insurance doesn't cover that. It's ridiculous. If you pay for insurance, you should be able to get these things that make life enjoyable. I don't know what the solution is though, other than foundations. But insurance is so corrupt. I think that's just my opinion. But um, do you think I going back, kind of ping ponging here? The doctor said that you'd never be able to walk again and you'd be in a wheelchair the rest of your life. Do you think that's the wrong thing to say? Do you think that they should say there's a high likelihood, or not like, oh yeah, you're going to be in a wheelchair the rest of your life? Because think about it. I bet you there are people who've just been like, oh okay, I guess that's what life is, and they've been in, because now it's been a long time since the injury, and they probably can't recover because of all the inflammation and all that stuff. Do you think that they should be wording it different, more positive outlooks on it?
Yeah, it's a great question, Cameron, and I absolutely do.
Hmm.
I think especially where in 2026, where modern medicine has gone, um, there's you just don't know, right? And I think you hear it less and less nowadays, where you're going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of your life,
Hmm.
uh, and really kind of seeing how those couple of months and couple of years go after the injury. But even if you're 15, 20 years out, again, there's so much tangible evidence and research that's going on, you really don't know. So that's why it's so important with some of these major outpatient rehabilitation places that folks with the injury keep their bodies in the best of shape. So
Hmm.
as trials come up and people are eligible, you're in the best shape possible to qualify and to get that opportunity to get back on your feet.
Were you big into Boston sports at all, or?
Absolutely. I was born in
Yeah,
Boston.
yeah, I
Huge,
figured, but
huge, huge Bruins fans. Loves the Patriots and the Red Sox. Like the Celtics. I just wasn't a good basketball player growing up, so I catch the Celtics when they're on. But yeah, huge Bruins fan.
talking about Bruins hockey ice arenas, I grew up playing hockey, so I saw some of the lookup lines, and I didn't know what they were at the time. I would ask somebody, and they'd give me a vague answer of like, "Oh, it's just it's red, so be careful."
Yeah,
Did you want to talk a little bit about? I know it started the idea of starting the lookup line, but do you want to talk about like the implementation and how long it's taken and details into that?
yeah. So I founded the lookup line because I just thought that the game and as a hockey culture, we can do better and make the game of hockey safer without affecting the speed, intensity, heritage, or adding any more rules to the game. Right? I think
Hmm.
rules are great to an extent, but I always thought that we could think outside the box and try to make the game safer. So I came up with the idea of the lookup line in 2012. I started to think about, okay, implementing warning tracks inside of hockey rinks. And in 2013, we did it in our first rink. So what the lookup line is, it's 40 inches off the boards. It's an orange line that goes around the entire rink. And what we're doing, Cameron, is we're taking off ice education like heads up, don't duck, and those different programs, and giving players a visual cue so when they see the line, they pick their head up. Because we
Right.
know head up versus head down, you're far less likely to have a serious head or neck injury as opposed to if you hit the top of your head or go in to the boards where you don't know where you are in space. And so when we were installed in our first rink in 2013, the idea exploded across the country. We've been installed in hundreds of rinks across the US and in Canada. And our big push, and we're very grateful for this, was when Governor Baker mandated the lookup line in all the state rinks in Massachusetts.
Oh,
And then
wow.
Marty Walsh, Mayor Walsh, who was the mayor of Boston at the time, he did it in all the rinks that Boston had the jurisdiction on to manage and operate. And then that led to New Hampshire mandating it and several other states. So it's been, goodness, over 12 years, 13 years that we've been working on the lookup line, and it still continues to grow. So it's a program that we're very proud of,
Mm-hmm.
and it's something that again doesn't affect the speed, intensity, heritage, or add any more rules to the game.
Yeah, and honestly, it's an idea you're planting in someone's head. So I imagine it's spread across the country that you don't even know about because they can just paint the line as
Yep.
when they're that's and it's a good thing that it's not like, oh, it's trademarked, you can't use this. It's just you're trying to spread this this will make the game safer, and that's all you want, I'm assuming.
Yep.
It kind of sucks though, because in baseball they have the warning track. You can feel it. You don't even, your eyes could be closed, you could feel it, and then you're like, okay, there's no feedback other than looking. I mean, it's definitely not saying it, not discounting it at all, but like there's one means of, you have to look at it, but
Yeah, it's
um
very similar, Cameron. If you think of football, right, and their perimeter line, that's all visual
mhm,
cueing. And then you cross the
true.
goal line, you have 10 yards till you hit the goalpost. Cross the
Yep.
out of bounds line, you have 5 yards till you hit players, coaches, or media. Same thing in swimming. There's the black line in each lane, stop 6.5 feet before the end wall. Same thing in basketball. There's that distance from the perimeter line to the post, the hoop, and then fans and media. So what we're doing is all through visual cueing.
Yeah, I didn't know in football they had the field goal. I didn't know they had that in the front of the end zone at one point.
They,
That's
they did.
crazy. It runs
Yep.
straight into it. I don't
Yep.
get knocked out. That'd be horrible. Um, Geez, I you're I was actually going to ask about going from Boston to Miami. I kind of figured it was because you got injured in that area and you got help in Miami and you wanted to promote that and the cause. And I think you're probably one of the coolest guests on this podcast. It's such an inspirational story. Um, what is one thing that has that your injury has taught you about life that you didn't think it would? Not trying to get too like, oh wow, but what's one thing that makes you look differently at everything now? I know you said perspective, but is there anything throughout your everyday life that I know it's perspective, but is there anything else that this has taught you?
Yeah, no, it's such a great question, Cameron. I think, it's enjoying the moments with the ones that you love. And that sounds cliche, so I want to double click on it. When after my second injury, and again, I remember the entire thing, I remember laying in the hospital bed and thinking to myself, when's the last time I told my mom that I loved her? When's the last time I told my dad that I loved him? And
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't remember. And I didn't know, and it got really dicey for quite some time. And through that night, with the swelling in my back, and I was having issues breathing, and doctors were like, "There's no guarantee for the next day." And I remember thinking to myself, "I just wish I could tell him that one more time." Right? I
Mm-hmm.
wish that I could have memories going up to. We used to love to go to Lake Winnipesaukee, New Hampshire, go to the beach together. And I think that the injury has taught me to not take anything for granted when it comes to that respect, and
Yeah.
tell people how much you care about them, and that you love them, and that you appreciate what they do, because you don't know when that time's going to come that you might not have that opportunity. And
Right.
that's something, like, I tell my wife I love her every single day. Every time I talk to my parents, I end the call with saying, "I love you, Mom. I love you, Dad." And I'm a grown adult, and I think it's so important that people know that, because it's not going to be forever. Let's face it, we're all gonna our day's going to come. But
Mm-hmm.
kind of thinking about, Cameron, you when I think of life, it's you have the day you were born and the day that you're going to die. Then there's a line in the middle, and off the surface on the tombstone, that line is relatively the same size for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, people's lines are a lot more full and a lot larger with what they did with life than others. I want my line to be bursting. I want people to remember me for the impact that I made, for the lives that we changed, and to know that I genuinely appreciate and love the memories and the time that I get to spend with people that I want in my life. And so after my second accident, that really repositioned how I think about my relationships and the people that I'm involved with and who I want to associate with, right? We
Hmm.
only have 24 hours in a day. We're sleeping for several of those hours. So there's not a whole lot of time. So really prioritizing who's in your life and who you want to spend the most time with is something that I take very, very seriously and try to practice to the best of my ability every single day.
Wow. Yeah. Taking that's amazing. I didn't expect that answer. I thought it would be kind of it stump you a little bit, like, oh man, I don't know, but that was great. Now I'm kind of going all over the place here because I'm moving the conversation all over the place. What does the physical preparation look like differently for you to run a marathon than others? I mean, I couldn't imagine what it's like to run 26 miles right
Mm.
now.
Yeah.
What's different for you?
So I think so. For your listeners, this year I completed my eighth Boston Marathon. I
Mm-hmm.
walk it every single year. I start training shortly after Thanksgiving. And unlike a lot of people, I don't do much outside. A lot of my training's on a stationary bike inside because what we're trying to do and what we've learned over 8 years is I'm building up the muscle mass around my bones inside my legs. Because that impact that I'm facing over 26 miles, though walking, is significant. And I haven't run since my second accident. So I haven't run since 2009. So every year I get, shin splints, which is fine. They're gone in a few days. I've never gotten stress fractures. And that's what we're really trying to avoid. So we have a pretty good system that's dialed in and a pretty good training program. But unlike 99.9% of marathon runners, I do all my training on the bike and do very
Yeah.
little outside.
Do you think that could be utilized more? I feel like you that makes a lot of sense. Building up muscle around your
Mhm.
bones and all that. Do you think that could be utilized more? And a lot of people put unnecessary stress on their muscles and bones and feet muscle, the little bones in your feet.
Yeah, it's the short answer is yes, but everyone's so different. Like for recreational runners, possibly there could be an integration, right, between the running outside and the less pounding, but you're still getting the endurance workout in. That's
Yep.
super important as you prepare for marathons. But the elite guys and girls, like I think probably they need to be out there with the pounding and things like that. But for recreational people, they're doing it in 4 or 5, 6 hours. I
Yep.
think there could be an incorporation of both.
Yeah. I mean, I always look at people who are running on the the road, and I I like biking a lot more than running. I
Yeah.
Obviously running has its time and place, but I would think that over a long period of time, if you're not careful and you don't recover well, it can lead to problems like, as you said, stress fractures. Like I was actually watching a video on Instagram. This I think it was a lady. She was trying to run every single day for an entire year. She went to the
Yeah.
doctor, and she had stress fractures. And the doctor's like, "What are you doing?
Mhm.
You need to recover from this. You can't keep running every day." So she goes home, keeps running every day. I don't know why she went to the doctor if she's not going to listen, but that's crazy. It just puts a lot of pressure on everything. Just the
Yeah.
impact after step after step. It's a lot.
Yeah.
How did I know you? So did someone come to you to recommend going to Miami for the treatment?
So we actually found Miami through a dear friend of my uncle's. It was kind of interesting how it happened. So I'm in the hospital, not making much progress. My uncle Tom had a friend at his lake house that knew someone down in Miami that had played football for the University of Miami that
Hmm.
knew Dr. Green and the founder, or excuse me, co-founder Nick Bonacani, and
Hmm.
it really got me in kind of through the back door, if you
Oh
will,
wow!
because there was a 6 month waiting list.
Oh wow!
So because of my uncle Tom and his relationships, and then that gentleman who knew Nick Bonacani, that was how I ended up there.
So now, are there more places similar to Miami was when you first got injured across the country now?
Yeah,
That's good.
there are, and Cameron. But what's interesting is there's a wait list at most of them, at least the top facilities. So, the thing that we try to provide is that access piece to the best care with the
Hmm.
foundation. So we try to help folks and guide them to the facilities that are best going to suit their needs.
Now, is there anything like insider tip to not get like into those places, but say someone recently got paralyzed and is watching this video,
Mhm.
what would you say the first steps you would take that they can do maybe at home? I don't know if that's anything that they could do, but like, is there anything that they could do other than getting into a place like that?
The big thing is being proactive and trying not to being more proactive than reactive,
Hmm.
and persistence. Um, it, Whether it's with hospitals or wherever, you really got to advocate for yourself. And there's, great doctors and great nurses out there, but sometimes it takes a little um, uh, figuring out what's best for you,
Hmm.
right? Every situation, every family, every individual is different. So being persistent and never giving up and just trying to, focus on what's best for you. And if the first facility or doctor or nurse doesn't work out, okay, just move on.
Right.
Not everyone is meant for every other person. So I think, that persistent piece is huge.
Um, have you looked into hyperbaric chambers? Like they put oxygen into the tube, right? That's what it is.
Yep.
Is that something that would benefit someone who has a paralysis injury? Is that would that like almost? I've seen some mixed things. I haven't done a lot of research on it, but like
Yeah.
supercharges healing. I guess is that.
Yeah, it's more so for like athletes and folks
Oh,
who are playing
okay.
contact sports with those types of muscle aches. With
Hmm.
paralysis, I haven't personally seen evidence that it helps, but
Okay.
yeah, I think in terms of just like your muscles and recovery, and then like working out and maybe any contact that the body may face if you're playing sports, it's obviously beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen actually like quite a bit of accidents with those too. Like it's not good. I mean, like the DIY home ones,
Yeah,
I wouldn't get inside of one. If it was in a hospital or a clinic, I probably would. But I see a lot of people like you see headlines in Russia, some guy died in one. Like, no, no thanks. I'll stay away from those. I know I might have already asked this, but you got paralyzed 3 times. Does that, trying to word this right, does that make you think life is fragile, or does it give you, well, I wrote it down, does it make you fearless, or does it make you fear how fragile life is? Does it make you want to grab, like, trying to metaphor, but like grab life by the throat or something?
yeah. I think with my injuries, it's tomorrow's not promised. Like every day is a
Mm-hmm.
blessing, and I think that that's really, Cameron, what it's taught me, and seize the moment. Like I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, when you asked about things that I was thinking about and what this has taught me, and I told you about telling my parents that I love them every time I speak with them. I tell my wife every
Mm-hmm.
day that I love her. I think it's that appreciation and not taking any day for granted.
You see all these people online complaining about everything and anything they can. I mean, talking about sport. I love sports. I love complaining about sports too. It's the best thing ever. But people who actually let outside factors control, not saying that these people are bad people, not saying anything like that, but they need to probably, as you said earlier, it's all about perspective. You need to put everything in perspective because your team losing the World Series really isn't a. It all washes out, and it's not gonna. There's you're not going to remember the Red Sox losing a World Series. You're not going to remember. Probably will remember the Bruins losing the 2019 Stanley Cup Finals, but um, I'm at a loss for words to be honest. It's really impressive what you've done.
I appreciate that, Cameron. And again, it's about perspective. And like, I tell people everyone has their own cross to carry, right? Some people's are bigger than others, but you just try to do the best you can every day. And you faced adversity in your life, and so have I.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, again, that perspective piece and trying to stay focused on whatever North Star that you have is super important.
Mm-hmm. So when you were playing hockey, if So let's just, you were really good at hockey. If not hockey, what would it be? What was your second passion that came really close to hockey? If there was anything. I mean, sometimes it's like hockey is my life. That's it.
Yeah, hockey was definitely what I was best at.
Mm-hmm.
I was a pretty good golfer. I don't know that I would have played in college, but I also didn't really push it in high school. Like it was just a sport that I did every
Yep.
season. But I love golf. I was a decent baseball player. I wouldn't have played in college. I wasn't that good enough. And then football, I stopped when I was 15. So outside of hockey, sports wise, it was golf.
Yeah.
And then outside of that, I mean, God, I think about, I love being outside. I love working with my hands. Would I have been, a carpenter or in law enforcement or something like that? I don't know. If I didn't
Yeah.
have my injury, I have a cousin who went to West Point,
Wow.
excuse me, two of them that went to West Point, and an uncle who was a general in the army. Like, it's I massive respect for our servicemen and women. So would I have tried to go to West Point and play hockey? I don't know.
Yeah. It's
But
kind of a hard question.
yeah, but I'm a super active person. So when you ask about what would it have looked like without hockey, could have gone a couple different avenues.
Yeah. You're talking about golf. Oh my goodness. I try, and it is never good. Sometimes the front nine is good, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do great this time. 10th hole comes around, and I triple bogey, quadruple bogey, double bogey, and then the rest is just me sitting in the golf cart and just waiting for the round to be over. But um, yeah, that's so. You said you played on the high school team, but it was more of a sport that you just did, not something just to keep you busy, and you liked it, so you played it. But
Yeah, liked it. I was competitive with it, but never thought that that would be what I would pursue in college.
yeah, college is, I mean, it's legit sometimes. Have you seen those YouTube golfers? And they're not even pro.
Yeah,
It's crazy. They're beating pros sometimes.
yeah.
Like I was watching, I can't remember who it was, but they're probably like a maybe 1 or 2 handicap, maybe plus one.
Hmm.
Um, they beat a pro golfer. He literally plays in the PGA Tour, and they wipe the floor with him. I don't know. Maybe it was their home course or something. I'm not sure, but yeah. So I have run out of things to talk about. So we're gonna end this with a funny question. I this is a new thing I'm doing. If you had to fight 100 duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck, which one would you choose?
100 horse sized ducks, or 100 or one duck sized horse.
That. No, wait. 100 duck-sized horses
Duck sized
or
horse.
one horse size. So a really big duck
One
or
horse. Okay, in reverse. One horse sized duck. Oh God.
it seems like a really scary duck.
I think one horse sized duck.
Really?
Um, yes, because I think, at least my experience with fighting, and especially in hockey, you can really alter a fight with the first punch,
Yeah.
and if you go low or high. So I think you'd have to figure out on the duck, the horse sized duck, uh, how you're going to stun on that first move, because if you don't,
Yeah.
it could be a long day for you.
I wonder what the weak points are on a duck. I don't know where you could attack.
I don't know. I love animals, so I've never thought about fighting them. So yeah, we'd have to think about that.
Well, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. I think your story is really cool. Well, it not wrong. You know what I mean? It's inspirational, and it's good that you're spreading awareness for this and your foundation. Is there anything that you wanted to include into the end of this video? And I'll put it in the description so people can go and
Yeah.
find where you are. And
No, Cameron, I really appreciate you having me on. And for folks that, are interested in learning more, they can go to thomasesmithfoundation.org. You can see the work that we do. We've donated over $2.5 million since our inception to individuals and families living with paralysis, as well as spinal cord injury research. So we'd love folks to visit our site. And if you want to get in touch with us, there's an inquire button, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. But really appreciate the opportunity to be on your podcast. And again, it's thomascsmithfoundation.org if folks want to learn more about us.